When you mess with someone Jinwoo loves, it's not a fight anymore, it's fate. Yoo Jinho, loyal, cheerful, and always 2 steps behind Jinwoo, vanished. No warning, no trail, just gone. And Jinwoo felt it, not because he saw it, but because the bond was real. All signs pointed to one man, Hwang Dongsoo, a rogue S-rank hunter back from the States, with a grudge and a death wish. He cornered Jinho, tortured him, and waited for Jinwoo to walk into his trap. But Hwang didn't understand one thing. Jinwoo doesn't walk into traps, he buries them. And when he finally found Hwang, the fear in the man's eyes came too late. But the real problem wasn't Hwang, it was the aftermath. Because when you kill a hunter on American soil, especially someone tied to Thomas Andre, the most powerful hunter alive, you don't walk away clean. Now the whole world's watching. But Jinwoo, he doesn't care who's watching. You touched his friend. Now you deal with his wrath. When Jinwoo looked at the pictures Adam showed him, the realization hit hard. The American government had just lost one of their most valuable national-level hunters. And now, they were going to do everything in their power to hunt down whoever was responsible. But Adam quickly reassured him. The Hunters Bureau still wanted to maintain a friendly relationship with Jinwoo. That's why they were giving him a heads up before things exploded publicly. He even added that it would have been beyond awkward if Jinwoo had suddenly seen his own father's face flashed up at the conference as the prime suspect. Jinwoo sat there, stunned. His father, missing for years, had now apparently become some kind of monster? Was this real? Had he really come back like this? Meanwhile, Adam's bodyguards rushed over, worried after witnessing the earlier surge of Jinwoo's terrifying power. Adam waved them off, saying he was fine, just a little shaken. But inside, Adam was thinking about something else entirely. Jinwoo's power, that telekinesis-like control he showed, it's not magic. It was completely different from what normal mages use to move objects. In fact, it was something Adam believed only national-level hunters could do. And that's when it hit him. He was a national level 6 hunter himself. He needed to urgently report this to the deputy head of the bureau. A few days later, the International Guild Conference was gearing up. It was set to be the biggest event for discussing the future of the Hunter Society. When the list of invited guilds was released, it was official. The Ahjin Guild would represent South Korea. This news spread like wildfire across the world. And back home too. Everyone was buzzing, but also a little stunned, because technically the Ahjin Guild was made up of just one person, Jinwoo. But honestly, that one person was enough. Jinwoo could easily take on entire guilds from other countries single-handedly, and that was the main argument in favor of Ahjin Guild representing Korea. At the conference, debates broke out. People questioned whether it was appropriate to send a one-man guild instead of a traditional team. Mr. Choi Jong-in, head of the Hunter Guild and South Korea's top mage, was asked directly about it. His response? Calm, confident. I think it's perfectly reasonable. Not only do I accept it, I support it fully. The audience pushed further. Wasn't it embarrassing that Ahjin Guild had only one member? Choi Jong-in smiled and replied, that one person is Jinwoo. That alone is argument enough. If you were counting the number of hunters capable of fighting high-ranking monsters, Jinwoo could easily replace hundreds. Choi even recalled the Jeju Island raid, when all hope seemed lost against the ants. And it was Jinwoo who had turned the tide, leading everyone back alive. He felt genuine pride that Jinwoo was now the face of South Korea at the conference, but not everyone was thrilled. One guy stood up, bitter about the fact that year after year the Hunter Guild had been the representative, and now suddenly they weren't. Choi handled it gracefully, saying he wasn't bitter, just a little disappointed. After all, he had renewed his passport just for this trip to America. But pride overwhelmed any lingering regret. When we thought we were doomed against the ants, it was Jinwoo who stepped forward without hesitation, he said. I'm proud that he's the one carrying our flag. After the conference ended, Choi Jong-in was approached by another hunter. The guy mentioned that a new dungeon had spawned that morning in the Susa area, an A rank, but reportedly not too dangerous. What caught Choi's attention wasn't the dungeon itself, but the fact that Ahjin Guild hadn't even bothered to claim it. 4 days since Jinwoo got back from Japan, Choi thought, and he hasn't made a move. While some guilds were throwing parties celebrating Jinwoo's absence, thinking the competition was finally easing up, Choi wasn't fooled. He compared them to monkeys thrilled over free apples falling from trees. Another hunter next to him grinned and said that now that Ahjin Guild wasn't sweeping through all the dungeons, sales were up 40%. Choi just smirked. Another monkey, he thought dryly. He waved it off and asked if the association had commented about Jinwoo's quiet behavior. After all, Jinwoo used to clear 3 or 4 low-rank dungeons a day, even after becoming an S rank. Now, he was just silent. Meanwhile, back in South Korea, inside the Hunters Association building, another situation was brewing. An inspector approached the president of the association, Go Gun-hee, with a request. China had sent an inquiry about Jinwoo. Go Gun-hee frowned. Isn't his information supposed to be personal and classified? The inspector explained it wasn't an official government request, and it was from a Chinese 7-star hunter named Liu Jigang. In China, hunters were rated up to 7 stars, and Liu Jigang was one of the best, a 5-star hunter who had battled alongside Jinwoo against the giants. Apparently, Liu Jigang had developed a personal interest in Jinwoo's abilities. Still, Go Gun-hee didn't like it. He ordered the inspector to deny the request, maybe write something vague and harmless instead. At the same time, across the ocean in America, something else was unfolding. Inside a prestigious guild office, a young woman approached the guild master and urgently whispered something in his ear. Hunter Hwang has arrived. The guild master was stunned. Before he could react, Hwang casually walked into the room. Without wasting any time, Thomas spoke, his voice low but firm. I'll keep this brief. Tell your people, don't lay a hand on Hunter Jinwoo when he arrives in America tomorrow. He knew full well what had happened between this guild leader's brother and himself, and he was here to make sure history wouldn't repeat itself. Even though the guild master's warning was clear, Hwang Dongsoo was still torn. Part of him doubted everything, but a bigger part of him desperately wanted the truth. As he stood there thinking, a tremendous force suddenly swept through the room. The overwhelming presence of Thomas Andre, the leader of the Scavenger Guild, hit him like a wave, sending chills down his spine. Thomas didn't even need to raise his voice. He simply pointed a finger at Dongsoo and said coldly, "Did I say you could speak?" The girl standing next to Dongsoo, Laura, Thomas's assistant, thought to herself, just do as you're told. After all, there weren't many people in the world who could intimidate national-level hunters. And Thomas Andre. He wasn't just any hunter. He was one of the most dangerous of them all. Still, Laura kept repeating her warning to Hwang Dongsoo. No matter what, do not touch Hunter Jinwoo. Dongsoo grumbled, but eventually agreed. He turned around stiffly and left to rest at the villa, just as instructed. After he left, Laura turned to Thomas, worried. Do you think he'll actually listen? She asked. Thomas snorted. Of course not, but he's not that stupid either. Then he ordered Laura, until Jinwoo leaves America, keep a close eye on Hwang Dongsoo. Laura hesitated. She knew Dongsoo wouldn't like being watched. But Thomas cut her off. Whether he likes it or not, it's better than dying. The next day, all the guilds gathered in a grand building for the big conference. Hunters from around the world filled the halls, and reporters swarmed the place like bees. One German hunter, from the Richter Guild, looked around, confused at the commotion. He asked his attendant why there were so many reporters. The attendant smiled and explained, "It's because of the Korean hunter. Everyone's talking about him." And just as they spoke, Jinwoo arrived. The German hunter figured it wouldn't hurt to introduce himself. After all, it's always smart to network with powerful people. But as he started walking toward Jinwoo, he froze. Something felt wrong. His escort asked why he had stopped, but the hunter just stared ahead. He hadn't even spoken out loud. Instinct alone made him stop. Because walking casually through the hall, Jinwoo was surrounded by so many powerful auras, it looked like he was marching into battle. It was terrifying. Jinwoo, meanwhile, noticed something too. He turned slightly to Jinho, who was tagging along and chatting excitedly. "See anyone familiar?" Jinho asked. Jinwoo shook his head. "Not really, but someone's staring pretty hard." Jinho laughed it off. "Well, you are basically a celebrity now. You're all over the news. Probably just a fan hoping for an autograph." As they walked, Jinho started wondering aloud. Weird though, why's the head of the association here? The official ahead of them, face stiff and awkward, explained, "Actually, I'm assigned to guard Hunter Jinwoo." He looked so embarrassed saying it that Jinho made him repeat it. Guarding Jinwoo? The idea sounded ridiculous. Jinwoo chuckled. "I thought you guys came here to meet me, not protect me." But the man clarified nervously, No. We're here specifically for you." Jinwoo raised an eyebrow. "I thought you were the ones in charge of Asia." Another voice, Adam White, chimed in. "From now on, we're in charge of you, Hunter Jinwoo." Jinwoo listened quietly as Adam added, "We'll be escorting you to the hotel. And there's also something important we need to discuss." At that, Jinwoo's expression turned serious. "Does it have something to do with my father?" he asked. Adam hesitated, then nodded. "The conversation won't hurt you, but it's classified. Some of it is even level 1 classified." Later, sitting in a black SUV, Jinwoo turned to Adam again. "Where exactly are we going?" Adam answered, "The headquarters building for the Hunters Bureau. Time's really pressing. Christopher Reed, our strongest hunter, is dead, and America needs to reinforce its fighting strength immediately." He explained that Christopher's death was still unofficially kept under wraps, but behind closed doors they were scrambling. "We're trying to find someone who can replace him," Adam said carefully. "And you're one of the top contenders." Adam pulled up some data on a tablet. He explained that Jinwoo's power was comparable to some of the most dangerous magical beasts in history, ones tied to legendary artifacts like runestones. He mentioned Kamish, the dragon, and how the runestone retrieved from Kamish's corpse had once triggered a global disaster, something humanity wanted desperately to forget. Adam asked cautiously, "So, what do you think about our proposal?" Instead of answering right away, Jinwoo leaned forward and pointed at the screen. "Show me the first photo again." Adam complied. The photo showed Kamish's enormous corpse, preserved somehow. Jinwoo's eyes narrowed. "You kept the dragon's body?" Adam nodded. "Yes, but the location is classified." Jinwoo's voice was low and firm. "I want to see it." Adam explained that even he didn't know where it was kept. It was a secret so high that only a handful of people knew, but he promised to push the request up the chain of command. "Will you wait a bit?" Adam asked. Jinwoo thought for a moment, then smiled slightly. "Sure, I'll go with you. Wait." Soon, Adam arrived at the Hunters Bureau's higher offices to report. The official inside listened carefully and then said, "You'll need to speak to the deputy director." As Adam left to get approval, two agents inside the room chatted quietly. "Why does Hunter Sung want to see Kamish's body?" one whispered. The other shook his head. "Who knows? But he's not just a tourist." They both agreed. Someone like Jinwoo, who could claim runes and skills from magical beasts, might see something in Kamish's body that others couldn't. If he could harvest skills even from monsters he didn't kill himself, that would change everything. The officials inside the Hunters Bureau were deeply troubled. If Jinwoo somehow managed to resurrect Kamish, the most powerful dragon ever known, and turn him into a shadow soldier, it would be catastrophic. One man argued, "We can't allow one person to become that powerful." But another countered, "If we refuse him now, we risk destroying any friendly relationship we have with him." In the end, they agreed to take a dangerous gamble. They would allow Jinwoo to proceed. Maybe they'd even get the chance to witness his terrifying abilities firsthand. Soon after, Jinwoo and the bureau official were walking through the facility, descending floor after floor. The atmosphere was heavy, and the officials silently wished things were calmer. Jinwoo, on the other hand, was deep in thought. This building was constructed right over the place where Christopher Reed fell. It was almost surreal. They moved through another long hallway until they reached a massive steel door. The official punched in a complicated password, and with a deep rumble, the door opened. The moment it did, Jinwoo felt it. The air itself shimmered with powerful magic. Even after 8 long years, the remnants of Kamish's energy still lingered, thick and oppressive. How powerful would Kamish have been as a shadow soldier? The idea made Jinwoo's heart race. Inside the vast room stood the skeleton of Kamish, enormous and awe-inspiring, a beast of legend frozen in death. The official spoke with reverence. Kamish wiped out countless hunters. Only 5 state-level hunters survived to defeat him. He gestured around. "The magic energy powering this entire building. It comes from Kamish's extracted magic stone." Turning to Jinwoo, he asked, "Are you satisfied?" But Jinwoo didn't answer. Instead, he asked everyone to step back. He needed space. He walked toward Kamish's remains, his expression serious. From a distance, the bureau agents watched in silence. Jinwoo concentrated, stretching out his hand toward Kamish's bones. He spoke the command, "Arise." Dark energy swirled around the skeleton. Thick, oppressive, electric, but nothing. First attempt failed. Jinwoo exhaled quietly. He still had 2 tries left. Gathering his power again, he said it a second time, stronger. "Arise." This time, the room shook violently. Darkness exploded around Kamish's massive frame. And then the impossible happened. A terrifying roar filled the chamber as Kamish's phantom form materialized. Alive, furious, monstrous. The walls cracked. Lights shattered. Protective barriers designed by top mages shattered like glass. Everyone watching froze in horror. The dragon's burning gaze locked onto Jinwoo. "You summoned me," Kamish growled. "You, the king of the dead, the lord of shadows?" The bureau agents realized the truth. This wasn't just a resurrection. It was full, conscious rebirth. Kamish, free for the first time in years, shook the room with his rage. "I must destroy them all," he roared, the barriers breaking apart piece by piece. Panic spread. "We have to evacuate," someone screamed. "No!" another yelled. "That's Kamish's breath attack charging up, and if he fires it, we're finished." Amid the chaos, Jinwoo stepped forward, utterly calm. He spoke, not in Korean, not in English, but in the ancient language of monsters, a tongue only rulers and ancient beings understood. "Calm yourself. "Your magic stone was removed long ago. You are no longer bound to the Monarch." The others couldn't believe what they were hearing, or even comprehend it. Kamish's raging energy began to subside. The dragon bowed his massive head low and murmured, "So, this is what it feels like to be summoned by the Shadow Monarch." He glanced back at the terrified officials and sneered, "Pathetic servants of the Dragon King." Jinwoo blinked. "Dragon King?" Confused, he asked Kamish who he was referring to. Kamish explained, "I once served the king of the wild dragons, the ruler of destruction." Jinwoo felt a cold shiver. The ruler of destruction, one of the terrifying 9 monarchs. This was the true scale of the enemy he was now facing. But before Jinwoo could say more, he noticed something strange. Kamish's body, it was fading. The dragon spoke with a sad finality. "Forgive me, master. We met too late. 8 years had been too long. Even Jinwoo's power as the Shadow Monarch couldn't fully bring Kamish back." As Kamish's spirit dissolved into light, he gave a final warning. "Be careful. 4 have borrowed the power of the Monarchs. Watch for them." And then, Kamish was gone. Forever. The system chimed harshly. Shadow extraction failed. No further attempts allowed. Jinwoo clenched his fists, jaw tight. He turned back to Adam White and said evenly, "Please tell the department head I'll assist with rebuilding this place." Then he walked away, his aura dark and seething. And just before exiting, unable to hold back his frustration, he smashed his fist into the wall, the reinforced concrete crumbling like sand under the force of his anger. Later that night, as Jinwoo was trying to cool his emotions, an inspector from the association found him. "Hunter Sung, why haven't you been answering your phone?" he asked. Jinwoo shrugged. "I was somewhere without signal." The inspector, flustered, said, "Hunter Go Gun Hee said he saw you and was waiting for you at his office." But Jinwoo frowned. "I just came from there. I didn't see him." At that moment, Adam White hurried over, face tense. "That's impossible," he said. "Hunter Go Gun Hee isn't even registered as a guest today." The inspector paled. "But just 2 hours ago, a hunter from the Vultures Guild swore he saw him." The inspector stood there, puzzled. The Vultures Guild, even though they were closely tied to the management, technically didn't have any authority to act on its behalf. Still, he decided to call them directly to find out what was going on. But even as he reached for his phone, Jinwoo was already on edge. Something deep inside him screamed that something was wrong. At the Vultures Guild office, a woman answered the phone. She was shocked to hear that someone from their guild had apparently taken a banner belonging to the Ahjin Guild. Instantly, she knew who it was. Meanwhile, the inspector, now standing around the corner, was told to stall Jinwoo, to ask him if he knew anything. Jinwoo, keeping his expression neutral, said he didn't know. But even before the conversation could finish, Jinwoo was gone. He sprinted toward the tallest building in the city, his mind racing. He realized with a jolt of guilt, I should have left shadow guards with Jinho. He couldn't bear the thought of losing Jinho, not like what had happened to his sister. Not again. Without wasting a second, Jinwoo summoned his shadow army. "Everyone, search for Yoo Jinho now." In an instant, the shadow soldiers exploded outward, racing through the streets, searching every corner of the city. Meanwhile, deep inside an abandoned building, chaos was erupting inside the Scavenger Guild. Thomas Andre's men realized that Hwang Dongsoo had disappeared, and worse, he had acted without permission. The guildmaster Thomas himself immediately knew, if Jinwoo finds Dongsoo first, it's over. He barked orders at his subordinates. "Find him before Jinwoo does!" No excuses. But deep down, he knew they were already too late. Back outside, the sun was setting, and Jinwoo stood atop a building, watching his shadow soldiers dart across the city like black arrows. He listened closely to the city sounds, straining for any clue, and then it hit him. Jinho must have been taken out of the city. If ordinary people had tried to overpower Jinho, it would have caused a scene. He was too strong to be dragged off quietly. If he was moved so smoothly, it could only mean one thing. It was hunters, and not just any hunters. The Scavenger Guild was involved. Jinwoo's face hardened. If it was Scavenger, there was only one suspect, Hwang Dongsoo. It made perfect sense. Dongsoo had always suspected Jinwoo and Jinho of being involved in his brother's death during the Jeju Island raid. If anything happens to Jinho, I'll destroy them all. At the same time, in the Scavenger Guild headquarters, Thomas Andre was furious. His subordinates still hadn't found Dongsoo. "That idiot," Thomas muttered under his breath. He knew Dongsoo was an S-rank hunter, sure, but compared to Jinwoo, it was like comparing the Earth to the moon. Thomas realized he'd been too lenient lately. He summoned Laura, his assistant, and demanded a situation report. Laura explained that, using Bureau intelligence, she had tracked Dongsoo's recent movements, and found that he'd visited an unlisted location multiple times over the past month. Thomas didn't hesitate. "Send every man we have there. Now I'm coming too." Before hanging up, he asked how she had convinced the Bureau to cooperate. Laura simply smiled. "Sometimes a little pressure goes a long way." Thomas knew if they didn't find Dongsoo fast, they'd soon have a much bigger problem. They'd be facing Jinwoo head-on. Back at the bureau, alarm bells started going off. A hunter rushed into the main office, shouting, "The entire Scavenger Guild is mobilizing." Every member, all 100 of them, canceled their raids and moved to one location. Panic broke out. Everyone knew if Thomas Andre moved his whole guild, something serious was happening. And if Jinwoo was involved, things could spiral out of control fast. Meanwhile, inside an abandoned warehouse, Yoo Jinho was in bad shape. 3 scavenger hunters stood around him. He was tied up, bleeding, but alive. One of them, Hwang Dongsoo, crouched down in front of him. "Relax, we're not going to kill you. Yet," Dongsoo said coldly. "We just need a few answers." He explained that Thomas Andre had forbidden him from touching Jinwoo. But Jinho? Fair game. All he wanted was one thing, a confession. Dongsoo wanted to hear Jinho say that Jinwoo killed his brother. If he got that answer, Jinho would be free. If not, things would get ugly. Dongsoo slapped Jinho hard across the chest, trying to wake him up. Another hunter nearby chuckled. "Tough little guy. Probably a tank class. Anyone else would be dead by now." Dongsoo sneered. "Stubborn idiot." Losing patience, Dongsoo grabbed Jinho and smashed his head against the iron wall behind him. Hard. "You think being brave is going to save you? Keep your mouth shut and you'll just suffer more." He warned him. "This place? Abandoned for 5 years. No one's coming to save you. Scream all you want." Jinho, bloodied but defiant, glared up at him and spat out, "Go to hell." Dongsoo's face twisted in rage. He hit Jinho again, even harder. But one of the scavenger hunters watching stepped forward and warned him, "Careful. You kill him, and you'll bring hell down on all of us. We're not doing this for money, remember?" Dongsoo ignored him. All he cared about now was breaking Jinho and getting the confession he desperately craved. "Leave him alone already," one of the hunters muttered nervously. They thought they had gotten enough information out of Yoo Jinho, but Hwang Dongsoo wasn't ready to stop. He sneered at Jinho's battered face. "Enough. We've just begun." But just then, something caught the hunter's attention. An orc appeared in the doorway, staring straight at them. Dongsoo stiffened, confused. Where the hell did this thing come from? He thought maybe a dungeon break had happened nearby. He started moving toward it, but something felt wrong. The orc wasn't attacking, it was terrified. Before Dongsoo could react, the orc swung at him. But in that exact moment, a familiar voice echoed through the room. Jinwoo's voice. Meanwhile, far away, Jinwoo's mother and sister were watching TV. They were tuned into a news report covering the Hunter Bureau's big event, and the US footage of Jinwoo flashed across the screen. Behind them, hidden in the shadows, one of Jinwoo's loyal shadow soldiers stood guard, whispering, "If anyone dares anger the king, they will not live to tell the tale." The shadow sensed it. Something was stirring in America. Elsewhere, a group of hunters preparing for a dungeon raid chatted nervously. Lately, monsters had been acting strange, unpredictable, even in low-ranked dungeons. The leader warned them not to let their guard down. Suddenly, one of the hunters pointed at the ground, panicking. "My shadow! It's moving!" His teammate laughed it off, thinking he was just trying to scare him. But the first hunter's face turned pale. "I'm serious, it's alive." Meanwhile, back on the road, Thomas Andre, head of the Scavenger Guild, felt a chill crawl down his spine. He ordered his driver to stop the car immediately. "It started," he muttered grimly. Kicking open the door, Thomas decided to go on foot, moving fast, sensing the eruption that was about to come. Inside the abandoned warehouse, chaos broke loose. Jinwoo had arrived. The walls shook as he burst through, knocking aside obstacles like they were paper. 2 scavenger hunters nearby froze in terror. The sheer pressure of Jinwoo's presence made it hard to breathe. Jinwoo rushed straight to Jinho's side, pouring a healing potion over him. But the system immediately flashed a warning. Target's health is below 10%. Healing potion effect nullified. Jinwoo's eyes blazed with fury. He lifted his gaze to the 2 terrified hunters standing there. "Is either of you a healer?" he demanded. They hesitated, stammering, trying to pretend they didn't understand Korean. Before they could react, Hwang Dongsoo appeared, grinning. "Didn't you hear him? Heal this puppy," he mocked. Jinwoo kept his cool, barely. He asked the hunters again, giving them one last chance. But one of them muttered that he had to ask the boss first. That was the last straw. Without a word, Jinwoo grabbed the man's head and smashed it against the nearest wall. The hunter collapsed instantly. Another scavenger hunter, panicking, tried to back away, stuttering about not knowing who Jinho was to Jinwoo. But Jinwoo had already activated his ruler's authority, pinning the second hunter into the ground with invisible force, the concrete cracking beneath him. Dongsoo, still arrogant, stepped forward. "I knew it," he growled. "You're the one who killed my brother, aren't you?" From the ground, Jinho weakly called out, "Be careful, Jinwoo. This guy's dangerous." Jinwoo didn't even look back. "Save your strength," he said calmly. Dongsoo snarled, "Answer me. Did you kill my brother and his team?" Jinwoo's eyes flashed. "Why don't you go ask him yourself?" Dongsoo lost it. He lunged at Jinwoo with everything he had, but Jinwoo sidestepped effortlessly and delivered a brutal kick to Dongsoo's ribs. The force sent Dongsoo flying across the room, slamming him into a steel pipe with a sickening crunch. He hit the ground, groaning in pain, but Jinwoo wasn't done yet. Cold and merciless, Jinwoo approached and slammed Dongsoo again, pounding him into the ground. The sounds of bones cracking echoed through the abandoned warehouse. Just as Jinwoo was about to end it, Thomas Andre finally arrived. "Stop," Thomas said firmly. Jinwoo didn't even look at him at first. Thomas raised a hand trying to de-escalate. "Calm down. I'm not here to fight you. Is he still breathing?" Jinwoo, panting slightly, replied, "For now." Thomas nodded. "Good. Then let's keep it simple. We'll pretend this never happened. We'll both walk away." But Jinwoo's face darkened. "And if that doesn't suit me?" Thomas's expression hardened. "Then this conversation is over." Jinwoo had no interest in talking anymore. He tossed Dongsoo aside like trash, sending his battered body skidding across the floor. Dongsoo, even through his pain, laughed bitterly. Finally, Thomas will have to step in. Thomas watched Jinwoo approach, his mind racing. "He doesn't even know who I am," Thomas thought. If he did, maybe he wouldn't be so reckless. After all, Thomas Andre wasn't just any hunter. He had grown up in a harsh world, poor, fighting for survival every day. He had clawed his way up to become one of the strongest men on Earth. But even he couldn't shake the growing realization he might have just picked a fight he couldn't win. Thomas Andre's story was one of hardship. Born into a poor immigrant family, he had grown up facing scorn and contempt from those around him. But fate had blessed him with something few others possessed: an overwhelming natural strength, a ferocity that made him a king among men. Every battle, every fight, he crushed his enemies with raw, brutal power. He ruled the battlefield like an emperor, his dominance undisputed. Whenever someone strong enough to challenge him appeared, Thomas crushed them without mercy, forcing even those who once looked down on him to kneel before him. Thomas Andre was the living embodiment of cruelty born from survival, a monster shaped by a ruthless world. He knew exactly how to break those who disobeyed. Now, standing face to face with Sung Jinwoo, Thomas felt that old, burning pride surge up again. "Blame it all on your own stupidity," Thomas muttered. Meanwhile, the Scavenger Guild forces arrived at the site, ready to back up their boss. But just as they were setting up, a loud crash thundered through the area. Something flew past them at terrifying speed. When the dust cleared, they realized it was Thomas Andre himself. He had been hurled hundreds of meters through the air, and it was Jinwoo who had hit him. The Scavenger Guild members panicked, rushing toward Thomas to check if he was still breathing. Thomas slowly stood up, his guild following nervously behind him. Back on the battlefield, Jinwoo issued a command. "Igris, take Jinho to the nearest hospital. Make sure he survives." Without hesitation, Igris lifted Jinho onto a dragon and flew into the sky. Jinwoo turned back to the Scavenger Guild, standing in front of him, and began summoning his army of shadow soldiers. Thomas Andre, smirking, cracked his knuckles. "A good fight," he muttered. "That's what I've been looking for." He didn't care about Hwang Dongsoo's ambitions anymore. All that mattered now was crushing the insolent hunter standing before him. Thomas called out, "If you admit your mistakes, I'll spare you." In response, Jinwoo simply raised his middle finger, silent and defiant. Thomas's face darkened with rage. "You'll regret not taking your last chance," he roared. His body swelled as he unleashed his magic power, the air around him trembling. The entire Scavenger Guild braced for battle, raising their shields. And then, the two forces collided. The battlefield erupted into chaos. The Scavenger Guild fought desperately against the overwhelming flood of shadow soldiers. Explosions shook the ground as dozens of shadow soldiers were blasted apart. At the center of it all, Thomas Andre rampaged like a monster unleashed. He crushed shadow soldiers left and right. An orc soldier tried to block him with a massive shield. Thomas shattered it with a single devastating blow. Knowing that shadow soldiers had the advantage in the air, Thomas launched himself into the sky, and then slammed down with enough force to create a massive shockwave, blasting apart dozens more shadows. But in the midst of the chaos, Thomas caught sight of his last standing guild member being overwhelmed. Nearby, Jinwoo stood, finishing him off. Thomas roared in fury, charging toward Jinwoo at full speed. But before he could reach him, a shadow general stepped between them, shield raised. Thomas crushed the general with a single blow, sending the massive armored figure flying. When Thomas looked up, Jinwoo was gone. In that split second, Jinwoo appeared behind him. He swung his blade, aiming for Thomas's back with terrifying force, but his weapon barely scratched Thomas's armor. Thomas retaliated instantly, smashing Jinwoo with a colossal punch that sent him flying upward. "Is this it?" Thomas laughed. "Is this what a national-level hunter looks like? A joke." He extended his hand, using telekinesis to drag Jinwoo back toward him like a rag doll, planning to show him the difference between true power and desperation. But Jinwoo wasn't done. As Thomas pulled him closer, Jinwoo activated Ruler's authority, locking Thomas's movements mid-air. Thomas barely realized what was happening, and that tiny hesitation cost him dearly. Jinwoo used the momentum to his advantage, accelerating his fist connected with Thomas's face with earth-shattering force. Thomas flew across the battlefield like a meteor, crashing hard into the ground. Blood filled his mouth as he skidded across the ruined landscape. Before he could even gather himself, Jinwoo was already there. "You said you could feel the difference in strength and desperation," Jinwoo said coldly. "Now feel it for real." Jinwoo rained down blow after blow on Thomas, fist after fist, bone-shaking punches, a brutal, relentless assault. Thomas tried to fortify his body with mana, but the sheer speed and ferocity of Jinwoo's strikes overwhelmed him. Meanwhile, back near the city, traffic had ground to a halt. Confused civilians peered out of their cars, seeing flashes of black and gold lighting up the sky in the distance. One driver leaned over to Adam White, who was stuck in traffic too, and asked, "Hey, what's going on up there?" Adam grimly replied, "No time to explain. Just turn around and drive away if you want to live." Still not fully understanding, the driver decided it was smarter not to argue. They hit the gas, fleeing the area. Back on the battlefield, Jinwoo's mind raced. 4 people, 4 Monarchs' powers were borrowed by humans. He was starting to realize the terrifying truth. Among the 5 who survived the trade, 4 had inherited a Monarch's power, and Thomas Andre was almost certainly one of them. As Thomas Andre pushed his physical enhancement to its absolute limit, Jinwoo didn't hesitate. He charged straight at him, but Thomas slammed both fists into the ground with such force that the earth under Jinwoo's feet collapsed. The whole ground caved in. Using the opportunity, Thomas launched himself into the air, gathering an ominous energy in his hand. A dark orb, swirling, humming, formed. The Scavenger Guild members fighting the Shadow Soldiers instantly recognized it. Their faces turned pale. "It's his captivity skill! Everyone get away from the Master!" someone shouted. In an instant, every Shadow Soldier near Thomas was sucked toward the black orb, like a miniature black hole tearing through reality itself. Jinwoo clung to a broken wall, watching carefully. Even he could feel it. The orb's pull was terrifying. Without the power of a Monarch protecting him, he might have been dragged in too. The orb exploded moments later, the shockwave collapsing half the building. But Jinwoo leapt higher, landing on a crumbling steel beam above the devastation. Down below, Thomas stood calmly next to the giant crater his skill had created, glaring up at Jinwoo. "This time," Thomas growled, "I won't miss." Meanwhile, the battered Scavenger Guild members began retreating, carrying the wounded away. They knew staying was suicide. Thomas didn't care. He had his eyes locked on one thing: Jinwoo. In a flash, he launched himself upward, soaring toward Jinwoo with terrifying speed. But Jinwoo was ready. He met Thomas mid-air with a devastating kick to the chest, sending him flying backward. Jinwoo wasn't done. He activated Ruler's authority, seizing Thomas mid-air, pulling him toward him while simultaneously accelerating his own attack. Thomas couldn't believe it. This kid's coming at me head-on? Confident in his overwhelming strength, Thomas braced for the collision, intending to take the hit and counterattack. But when they clashed, Thomas realized too late. His armor cracked under the force of Jinwoo's punch. Jinwoo's strike sent Thomas hurtling through the remains of the building, smashing through debris like a wrecking ball. Without missing a beat, Jinwoo sprinted after him. Thomas barely had time to react. He swung at Jinwoo, but Jinwoo dodged smoothly and countered with a knee strike directly to Thomas's head. Thomas staggered. His armor, designed to withstand even the strongest attacks, was falling apart. "I need to change tactics," he thought desperately. At that moment, Adam White and his hunters arrived on the scene. They stopped dead in their tracks, staring in horror at the battlefield. What kind of monsters are fighting out there?" one of Adam's men whispered. They spotted someone flying past them, and only after a stunned second realized it was Thomas Andre himself. The hunters looked to Adam, waiting for orders, but Adam knew the truth. There was nothing they could do. This was far beyond their level. Back at the center of the chaos, Thomas couldn't believe what was happening. A hunter with no magical pressure, with no monstrous aura? How is he this strong? This doesn't make any sense. Thomas roared, "There's no way! I'm Thomas Andre. I don't lose." But Jinwoo didn't even flinch. He closed the distance, and then his next blow hit Thomas so hard that blood exploded from his mouth. Punch after punch, brutal, relentless. Jinwoo didn't care who Thomas was. All he saw was an enemy who had hurt Yoo Jinho. The brigade hunters watching the fight screamed, "Stop! Please stop!" But Jinwoo didn't stop. He kept pounding Thomas into the ground, over and over, until finally, battered and broken, Thomas Andre whispered, I surrender." He slumped against the ruined wall, bloodied, defeated, head bowed in total submission. The witnesses could barely believe their eyes. Thomas Andre, one of the most powerful national-level hunters, beaten into the ground, forced to surrender. If the public ever learned what happened here, the whole world would turn upside down. Adam rushed forward, yelling for the healers to move in. One of them quickly knelt beside Thomas, but after a quick inspection, he shook his head in horror. All his bones are broken, internal bleeding everywhere. I can't do this alone. Even battered, Thomas's durability was monstrous. Anyone else would have been dead a long time ago. Still, the scene was brutal. Suddenly, a new report came in. One of Adam's hunters ran over, pale and shaken. Hunter Hwang Dongsoo. He's not breathing. His heart has stopped. And Jinwoo is gone, far away, across the ocean. Jinwoo stood atop a rooftop in Seoul, South Korea. The bustling city lights stretched out before him. He had used Shadow Exchange to instantly swap places with one of his soldiers. Standing beside him, one of his shadow soldiers knelt respectfully. It was the freshly reborn Hwang Dongsoo, now a shadow soldier. His level unknown, his rank, general. The shadow waited for his king's command. Jinwoo thought for a moment. Dongsoo had been consumed by greed, and it had led to his downfall. He decided to name him accordingly. Your name will be Greed. The shadow smiled, a loyal servant reborn, and said humbly, I am honored, my king. After naming his new shadow soldier Greed, Jinwoo looked down at him. From now on, face the future head on, Jinwoo said quietly. Greed, once Hwang Dongsoo, bowed low, acknowledging his new life under the Shadow Monarch. The next day, the International Guild Conference buzzed with tension. As Jinwoo walked into the building, he immediately noticed a swarm of reporters milling around. The man beside him leaned in and muttered, Word must have gotten out about the fight yesterday. You're not escaping attention today. The bureau chief of the Hunters Association spotted Jinwoo and thought grimly, this man destroyed the Scavenger Guild's reputation overnight. They had already decided to provide witness protection for the case involving Hwang Dongsoo, and the association was scrambling to figure out how to handle the fallout. But Jinwoo wasn't interested in any of that. He had only one goal here, and as soon as it was done, he planned to head straight back to Korea. No more delays. At the conference entrance, the staff handed Jinwoo a headset for real-time translation. Everything said inside will be translated for you, the staff member explained. Jinwoo nodded silently and entered the massive hall. The room fell into a low murmur as he stepped inside. People stared. Whispers rippled across the crowd. That's the Asian hunter who beat Thomas Andre. He's the one who helped clear the Tokyo Gate. He's the guy who crushed the Vultures Guild. The shock on their faces was palpable. Jinwoo ignored the stares, found a free seat, and sat down calmly. The conference officially began. A man with glasses walked onto the stage and introduced himself. I'm Dr. Belzer. He got straight to the point. As many of you know, the frequency of gate appearances has increased drastically. Along with that, the monsters inside have grown much stronger. But then he dropped something new, something no one was prepared for. In addition, Dr. Belzer continued, we have detected unusual phenomena in the atmosphere itself. He explained that many reports had confirmed a massive buildup of magical energy in the skies, something never recorded before in all of humanity's history with gates and dungeons. Until a better name was found, he proposed calling this phenomenon Mosphere. He displayed a map on the large screen behind him. Currently, Mosphere concentrations have been detected in 9 locations worldwide. The highest concentration is over Seoul, South Korea. The moment he said it, every head in the room turned to stare at Jinwoo. Jinwoo felt their gazes but kept a stoic face. Dr. Belzer quickly added, no hunter can control or cause this phenomenon. Please do not associate Mr. Sung Jinwoo with it. But Jinwoo's mind was racing. 9 locations. 9 monarchs? The coincidence was too strong to ignore. The doctor wrapped up his report, warning everyone, the world is on the brink of massive change. We must prepare for anything. Another man then took the stage. Unfortunately, I bring tragic news, he began. The room fell deathly silent. 2 weeks ago, national-level hunter Christopher Reed was killed by unknown assailants. Gasps filled the hall. People whispered in disbelief. How could someone kill a national-level hunter? Was it the Asian hunter who fought Thomas yesterday? Speculation spread like wildfire. The screen behind the speaker lit up, showing images of Christopher's body. The man explained that the official report would be released tomorrow, but for now, they wanted to get ahead of rumors and present the main suspect. When the screen shifted to show the suspect, Jinwoo's heart nearly stopped. It was his father. The hall exploded into whispers. That guy looks just like the Asian hunter behind us. Are all Asians the same or what? Someone muttered ignorantly. Jinwoo clenched his fists. Father, why? He thought back to Kush's warning. that 4 humans had borrowed Monarch's powers, and that terrible things were coming. Is this why the ruler sent a monster in my father's form? The speaker continued. The suspect found near the gate in U.S. territory was capable of speaking human language, a humanoid monster. Hunter Hwang Dongsoo was called to assist with interrogation due to the Korean language barrier. However, during questioning, the suspect knocked out Dongsoo, destroyed Hunter Bureau headquarters, and escaped. They concluded that it was highly likely this being and others like him were responsible for Christopher Reed's death. But Jinwoo noticed something the others didn't. In the interrogation footage, his father, or at least the man who looked like him, warned Hwang Dongsoo, "Stay out of Korea for your own safety. If you don't, there will be no peace for you, not even in death." It wasn't a random threat. It sounded like a heartfelt warning. Jinwoo summoned Greed, the new shadow soldier made from Hwang Dongsoo, and asked, "Was it true?" Greed bowed and confirmed it. "Yes, my king. It is exactly as you saw." Jinwoo's heart twisted. There was no longer any doubt. The man in that footage was truly his father. The man on the stage continued speaking, his voice somber. "We request the assistance of all guilds worldwide to apprehend the suspect should he be found. If you encounter him, report immediately." A man in the audience raised his hand. "How can you be sure that this suspect isn't human?" The speaker answered, "His magical signature matches the energy emitted by monsters." Another voice asked, "You claim he impersonated a hunter lost in a dungeon. Has his identity been verified?" "Yes," the speaker replied. "There was indeed a man who went missing years ago. The suspect matches him." Someone else called out, "Then why won't you reveal his name?" The man hesitated, then explained, "Because he is related to one of the hunters present here today. Out of respect, we've withheld the information." But the tension only grew thicker. Another hand rose. It was Yoo Jinho, China's 7-star hunter. Calmly but firmly, he asked, "Wouldn't it be more appropriate to disclose his identity for the sake of capturing him?" Then, without mincing words, he added, "What is the connection between this monster and Hunter Sung Jinwoo?" The hall fell into stunned silence. The man on stage sighed heavily. During the interrogation, he admitted, the suspect identified himself as Sung Jinwoo's father. All eyes in the room turned toward Jinwoo. Yoo Jinho pressed further, "Hunter Sung, if it is confirmed that this man is your father, and the Hunter Society decides to apprehend him, what will you do?" Jinwoo stood up slowly. His voice when he spoke was clear, unwavering. "The duty of a hunter is to eliminate monsters. If he truly is one, I'll destroy him myself." The crowd held its breath. "But," Jinwoo continued, his gaze like steel, "if it's confirmed he's my father, and anyone dares lay a hand on him, I will destroy them, no matter who they are." Silence fell like a hammer over the hall. As the conference ended and people began filing out, an investigator from the association approached Jinwoo. "Did you really mean what you said in there?" he asked, half in awe. Jinwoo shrugged. "Was there anything unclear about it?" The investigator chuckled nervously. "You know, there are probably only 2 hunters in the world who could say something like that in front of the 500 strongest hunters from 120 countries. Jinwoo raised an eyebrow. "Who's the other one?" "The guy you recently sent to the hospital. Thomas Andre," the investigator said with a laugh. He then mentioned that the association was hosting a grand banquet to celebrate the conference, and politely invited Jinwoo, mentioning how expensive it had been to arrange. Jinwoo was about to respond when he noticed Yoo Jinho approaching him. Jinho spoke in Chinese, so Jinwoo didn't catch a word. He glanced at the investigator. "What's he saying?" The investigator translated quickly. "He says he recently captured a strange monster off China's coast, and it was incredibly difficult even for him. He came today because he wanted to meet you, Sung Jinwoo, the hunter who defeated a dozen such monsters with ease." Jinwoo listened quietly. Jinho continued through the translator, praising Jinwoo's strength and expressing admiration. He admitted that he was happy someone had finally reined in Thomas Andre. At first, Jinwoo had found Jinho a little arrogant, but now he realized he's not a bad guy after all. Before leaving, Yoo Jinho added sincerely, "I hope that man isn't really your family." Jinwoo nodded wordlessly. The investigator smiled and said, "At least it doesn't seem like he's looking for a fight." "Good," Jinwoo replied simply. Suddenly, a different official approached Jinwoo. "Hunter Sung, please come with us." A few minutes later, Jinwoo found himself sitting across from Madame Selner, the world's only hunter appraiser who could perceive future dangers. She smiled warmly. "It's been a long time, Hunter Sung." Jinwoo frowned slightly. He hadn't expected to see her again. "Why did you call for me?" he asked. Madame Selner's expression grew serious. "I've been having strange dreams lately," she said. "Dreams where hunters are killed by unknown creatures." Jinwoo's eyes narrowed. She continued, "The worst part is the dreams are coming true." She confessed that before Christopher Reed's death she had tried to warn him, but he hadn't listened, and now he was gone. Jinwoo immediately understood. It's happening already. Madame Selner leaned in closer. The great hunters, the ones who have kept humanity safe, yet are going to die, one after another. Jinwoo asked, these unknown creatures, are they unstoppable? She nodded gravely. They aren't ordinary beings. I tried to peer into their true nature in my dreams. And, Jinwoo prompted. Selner shivered visibly as she spoke. When I looked at them, what I saw was infinite, bottomless power. I woke up screaming. In that moment, a voice whispered into my ear, a voice so terrible I still hear it sometimes. It said, she whispered, you have seen something you should not have seen. Jinwoo felt a chill run down his spine. This is the war that Kadaf spoke of, the eternal war between the rulers and the monarchs, and Earth was about to become their new battleground. Jinwoo asked the obvious question, why tell me this? Madame Selner looked straight into his eyes. Because they will come for the hunters, and you, Hunter Sung, you must protect them. Madame Selner finished her warning with a final chilling note. The same power I saw in those monsters comes from you too, Hunter Sung. Jinwoo froze. Was she sensing the power of the Shadow Monarch inside me? If that was true, then it made sense. The creatures she dreamed of were likely the rulers or their agents. The hunters they spoke of, like the ones from Ririn, must be aligned with the rulers. The man standing behind Selner spoke next, his voice low and urgent. Those creatures are strong. If we're going to survive, we'll need your help, Hunter Sung. He admitted they had initially doubted Jinwoo's abilities, but after what they witnessed during his fight with Thomas Andre, there were no more doubts. Needless to say, the man added, you will be handsomely rewarded. You can take anything you want, even the runestone extracted from Kamish. He explained that America was blessed with hundreds of powerful hunters, and only because of them had humanity been able to resist the tide of monstrous threats. If those top hunters were wiped out, the world would collapse. Jinwoo was about to respond when the man quickly asked, was your fight with Thomas Andre yesterday personal? Jinwoo shook his head calmly. I just didn't know who my true enemies were yet. He stood up, ready to leave. I need to return home. But just before walking out, Jinwoo stopped, sighed, and turned back. Mr. White, he said, could you provide me with a list of hunters who have requested protection? Also, I'd like to arrange meetings with them. Adam White smiled. Of course, I'll get it ready for you. On the final day of the International Hunters Conference, a grand banquet was held. Hunters from all over the world gathered in celebration. Jinwoo and Yoo Jinho attended as well. Jinwoo checked on his deputy, concerned. You doing okay? Jinho grinned sheepishly. I'm more alive than anyone else here, Hyung. Although, hearing you fought Thomas Andre almost made me cry. Nearby, whispers filled the room. Hunters talked quietly about Jinwoo. I saw it myself. I couldn't even sense his magic power. He's on a completely different level. And he fought Thomas Andre just to save his deputy. The admiration and fear were thick in the air. Suddenly, a hunter approached Jinwoo. He was the head of a company that specialized in recycling magical monster remains. He politely asked if Jinwoo could spare a moment. He wanted to discuss purchasing the corpses of the giants Jinwoo had recently killed. Jinwoo chuckled internally. He pointed at Jinho. Business matters aren't my thing. Talk to my vice president. Jinho, bright-eyed, immediately stepped forward, smiling confidently. Pleasure to meet you. Let's discuss the details. Jinwoo couldn't help but smile. This little puppy is really starting to feel like a true vice president now. At that moment, Adam White returned, holding a file. Here's the list you asked for. Jinwoo scanned the document. It ranked hunters based on their achievements and overall contributions. The top 10 hunters were prioritized, the best of the best. Adam pointed out where Jinwoo would have stood if he officially registered. Given your performance during the Giants raid, you'd be ranked around 3rd or 4th. The rankings were Thomas Andre, 1st Liu Jigang, 2nd Christopher Reed, 3rd Siddharth Bakchan, 4th. It was too many names for Jinwoo to memorize. Instead, he decided, I'll just meet everyone and sort things out myself. It'll be easier that way. That way, he could quickly identify who was a ruler's ally and who wasn't. But suddenly, the entire room went silent. Everyone froze as Thomas Andre walked in. Jinwoo turned and saw Thomas, arm heavily bandaged, slowly approaching him. Thomas raised his hand, barely, and spoke. Healing magic won't work. The damage is too deep. Doctors had confirmed it. His arm was healing, but painfully slowly. Thomas looked Jinwoo in the eyes and asked, Why? You could have crushed me completely. You could have wiped out my entire guild. But you didn't. Jinwoo answered simply, because they didn't deserve to die. Thomas stared at him for a long moment. Then he turned to leave, muttering, I'm planning to hold a proper funeral for Hwang Dongsoo. He didn't deserve to die like that, but at least he deserves a farewell. Before he left completely, he added, "When my arm's healed, let's have lunch sometime. Tell my secretary to get your number." Thomas's secretary, a polite young woman, approached Jinwoo. She bowed respectfully. "Our master wishes to thank you for sparing the guild members. If you ever need anything, please contact us." Jinwoo shook his head. "I'm fine." The secretary smiled and added, "Our master doesn't like owing debts. Please ask for something. Anything." Jinwoo thought for a moment, then said casually, "Maybe a good blade, or a dagger. Something useful." The secretary bowed again. "Understood. Thank you, Hunter Sung." After she left, Adam White approached. "The hunters you wanted to meet are waiting, shall we?" Jinwoo nodded. "No need," he said calmly. "But I noticed something. Someone's missing from this list. Hunter number 6, where is he?" Adam's face turned grim. "We lost contact with him a few days before the conference. We tried searching discreetly through Brazil, but he never came back." Jinwoo's heart sank. "He's dead. That left only 7 hunters, 7 potential allies against the coming storm." Meanwhile, back in Seoul, the president of the Hunter Association sat quietly in his office. His health had been deteriorating for a long time. The doctors had warned him step down or die within the year. He had stubbornly stayed, sacrificing himself for the association for the future. But now, even he could feel it. His time was almost up. As he rolled back in his chair, thinking he might finally go home early, the phone rang. It was his wife, checking in as always. "Nothing strange happened today," she reassured him. "I'll be home soon," he promised. But just as he hung up, he felt it. An unnatural, oppressive presence filled the room. He turned slowly and saw it. At the far end of the hallway sat a figure, leaning back casually in a chair, grinning at him. The president stared. "Do you want something?" he asked cautiously. But deep inside, cold fear gripped him. "This aura, it's too much. I can't even grasp it." The figure chuckled. "Relax. This space is isolated from the outside world. No one can help you now." For a moment, the president wondered if it was just a dream, but a shard of ice shot through the air, piercing his shoulder. Pain. It was all real. The creature stood up. "I thought you'd be more interesting," he said mockingly. "But it turns out, you're just a human." "Who are you?" the president demanded again. The creature smirked, releasing a wave of chilling power that made the room freeze over. "No more games. Show me the shard of light hidden within you, or die." The president gritted his teeth. The monarch began casting a terrible spell, magic swirling at his fingertips. He attacked, but the president was ready. With a burst of radiant energy, the president countered, reflecting the spell, blasting a hole through the wall. The human facade peeled away, and now, standing there, was no longer the frail association president, but one of the shards of brilliant light, emissaries of the rulers. The creature's smirk widened. "Found you," he whispered. The two forces clashed violently. The Frost Monarch, the creature of ice, unleashed devastating cold magic, but the shard fought back with brilliant, blazing light. The building around them shook and crumbled. Walls cracked. Furniture froze and shattered. The Frost Monarch managed to freeze half the shard's body at one point, but he broke free with sheer willpower. They exchanged savage blows, but the human vessel was clearly weakening. Desperate, the shard launched a powerful strike. The Frost Monarch barely shielded himself with a block of ice. The attack missed. The president collapsed to one knee, gasping for breath. The Frost Monarch stood over him, triumphant. "You're finished," he sneered. "Not even a fragment of the shard you used to be." Then he lunged. Ice blades tore into the president's weakened body. The Frost Monarch laughed cruelly. "How long would it take you to find another vessel? A year? 2? By then, it'll be too late. My armies will sweep across this world." But then, to the monarch's shock, the president laughed. "You really think I fought you for nothing?" With a sudden movement, he grabbed the Frost Monarch's arm. "You missed something important," he whispered. And then, the shard drove his fist into the wall behind him. It wasn't an attack. It was a precise strike aimed at the barrier, isolating the space. Cracks spiderwebbed instantly. The Frost Monarch's eyes widened. "What are you?" The barrier shattered. The outside world rushed in. From the ruined breach, a massive shadow ant charged through, followed by a dark silhouette. The Frost Monarch sneered. "Just a chaos beast? It's nothing." He moved to intercept, but the figure following wasn't just another minion. As the monarch swung his scythe, intending to crush the intruder, his weapon was blocked. A hand gripped the scythe with unbelievable force. A figure materialized from the shadows, moving faster than the eye could follow. It was Sung Jinwoo. Before the Frost Monarch could react, Jinwoo's hand closed around his throat. His voice, low and dangerous, rumbled in the freezing air. "Who are you? What kind of monster are you? Frost Monarch?"